Up first, though, how about the appalling treatment yesterday or 2 days ago at the hand of two girls that a 56-year-old man called Roger Stapleford experienced on the train? Now, when Mr. Stapleford asked these two teenage girls to remove their legs from a seat so that he could take a load off his own feet, they verbally abused him, they threw a can of Coke at him and gashed his forehead, and then they upended a Sloopy on top of his head. And while this was going on, no one, I repeat, no one amongst many shocked onlookers did anything to help. Even an off-duty V-Line security manager who was right there admitted that he just watched in stunned disbelief. And Mr. Stapleford himself, who's 6'4" and weighs 110 kilos, said that while he could have defended himself, he didn't want to be portrayed as the bad guy with these feral girls. Sadly, our society is now composed almost entirely of onlookers rather than doers. We take photos and videos of everything under the sun, which we then share with all and sundry over the internet, Facebook, etc. But do we ever get physically involved when the situation demands it? In Mr. Stapleford's case, the answer clearly is no. By acting the way they did, these two feral girls lost any of the chivalry that some men still extend to females. To call them animals is actually insulting to the animal kingdom. Society needs to make it clear to such people that behaviour like theirs will not be tolerated. If I'd been there, I'd like to think I'd have grabbed both of them by the scruff of the neck and pulled them off Roger Stapleford. A physical scare like this might actually have knocked some sense into the two girls. Frankly, more people need to stop being onlookers and instead become doers in absolutely appalling situations like this one. I'll take calls in a moment. 96900 693 outside Melbourne 13 13 32. You know, Australia used to pride itself on being a nation of people who are good with their hands, who would jump in and help someone who was down on their luck or indeed being attacked by a couple of other people. These days, I worry, we just sit there with our iPhones, we film things, we take photos, but we don't actually do anything. Peter Sciarra is head instructor at Integrated Combat Systems in Cheltenham. He's a karate expert, and he joins us now. Mr. Sciarra, good afternoon.
Hi, Tom. How you doing?
Good, thank you. Now, could anything have been done with these two girls? Should someone have stepped in and physically taken them off Mr. Stapleford, who was being attacked?
Oh, absolutely. I think they should have. But I think people are pretty much scared of their own safety. They're scared of getting hurt themselves. They don't have the confidence to deal with a violent situation. They don't have the skills. And people go into a sort of a state of shock when they see things like that, and they can freeze and not do anything.
Okay, but I mean, the state of shock, I can understand that, but these were two teenage girls. I mean, really, for a grown man to be frightened of two teenage girls surely is a bit silly. And there was a V-Line security guard off-duty who was sitting right there watching the situation as it unfolded. That security guard did nothing either.
Yeah, I personally can't understand it either. I mean, I would have been involved straight away. I really don't know why anyone didn't get involved, especially two females. They could have been easily controlled and restrained. I think people just don't want to get involved. People are just scared, I think.
Do you think, is it because, you know, people know that if you're defending yourself, you're only supposed to use an amount of violence proportional to the threat that you face? That if a man like Mr. Stapleford, who's 6'4", weighs 110 kilos, if he'd, I don't know, thrown a punch or something like that, in my view, as he was perfectly entitled to do, are they worried that they, in fact, might end up becoming the attackers rather than the victims?
Yeah, well, that's one thing. I don't think people think of it that deeply at the time. They just don't have the skills or the confidence to do anything. I think people really need to do some training. In the end, you know, the more skills you have, the more training you have, the more likely you will do something.
Okay, but are we talking self-defense training here? Are we talking about learning a martial art?
Self-defense training, realistic self-defense training. And what we do at ICS is called close quarter combat. So we specialise in street self-defense, and we teach people how to deal with that kind of situation.
But do you teach people how to, you know, deal with two teenage girls who, while they're aggressive, I mean, obviously you don't want to knock them unconscious or anything like that, do you?
No. Well, we teach people how to do that as well. But one of the aspects we learn is control and restraint. So we learn how to restrain people, so we can put them on the ground and restrain them and get help.
Do you think the standards in society have dropped to the point where many more people now need to learn how to defend themselves?
I think so. I mean, unfortunately, in today's world, you know, self-defense is a necessary skill everyone needs to have. You know, it's becoming more and more violent, and it's just the way it is.
I do a fair bit of boxing, and I've noticed that we now have more girls than guys coming to learn how to box. Is that a sign of the times as well?
Well, boxing's really a sport. You know,
yeah.
Boxing, you've got the gloves on, you've got your wraps on. That doesn't translate into real-world fighting. You really need to look at a realistic sort of self-defense system to learn these kind of things.
All right, Pete Sciarra, thank you for your time. We'll leave it there. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Pleasure. Thanks, Tom.